Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
I'm Scott.
I'm John.
And we're married. And we knit.
We do.
And we watch Angela Lansbury movies.
Yes.
And that's all we do.
Pretty much. That is, we work, knit, watch Angela Lansbury movies.
Although, I get to start my furlough next week, which I am not making fun of it. I'm trying to be positive, but I'm forced by my company to work 3 days next week and 3 days the next week. 4-day weekends. I'm looking forward to it.
Be nice. The house would better be really nice and clean.
That's cute. The yard will be nice.
That's true.
I'm going to spend a lot of my time working on the yard.
That's a good idea. So,
I mean, it's probably going to snow tonight.
yeah, we were very excited to do yard work this weekend because it's got nice and it's pretty, and it's been 40 all weekend.
Yeah.
That's Fahrenheit.
Right. Not, 110 or whatever that is in Celsius.
Right. So.
So, yeah. So, we're not a home improvement landscape design podcast. We are a knitting podcast.
We are a fine fiber craft and arts podcast.
We're pretty much barely knitting. I don't think art comes into it.
Right.
So yeah, so we have lots of knitting to talk about.
We do.
We have an Angela Lansbury movie to talk about. Hopefully everybody did their homework and watched National Velvet, although
I feel like a lot of people might have already seen it.
Yeah, and Angela Lansbury was in it for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And she was a promiscuous teenager.
Well, for 1944.
She met boys.
She did, but we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
We don't want to put our eggs into one Angela Lansbury basket.
No, that would be awful.
That would be terrible.
So happy Mother's Day.
Yes. It is May 12th.
I guess.
Sure.
This is the day where we don't say anything bad about Betty Ann.
Yes. We never say anything bad about
She doesn't actually wear sparkly tube tops. She doesn't wear tube tops of any kind.
She doesn't ride skateboards.
She doesn't ride skateboards.
She has not...
She did not hack the Zoom system.
No. She's actually a very sweet woman.
I would not go that far.
She's always been very nice to me.
I wouldn't say, that Betty is, she's so sweet. I wouldn't say that.
Butter don't melt in her mouth.
I would say she's the best mom ever.
Okay.
I will say that. So, we're going to start off with knitting.
Yes.
And so I have a hoe, half-finished object. I have a new cast on, and I have a work in progress, a long-term work in progress. So I have a couple other projects, but I'm not going to talk about them because I'm actively working on them, but it's like my dish towel that I've done like 3 more rows on, and that's not necessarily that exciting. So, and I've got some acquisitions.
Excellent. I have a finished object, which is a hidden finished object because it is blocking right now, but we'll have pictures and stuff like that.
But we will be talking about that because we need to have
some marital therapy
YouTube
over it.
Therapy. We need y'all to be our therapists over that.
I think it's more of a referee. It's like that. There's a Reddit channel that is.
Was I wrong or something like that?
No, it's.
Or am I the asshole?
Am I the asshole? Yeah. So we'll put the scenario out and you can vote.
That's not a
we're not
formula for trouble.
Right, we're not going to do that at all. But yeah.
So you have a finished object, and what was the other thing?
I've got 2 works in progress that I've done a little bit on, but...
Well, why don't I start off with my half-finished object?
Okay, that sounds good.
Alright, so I was very excited. Let me get this out of the bag. This is my half-finished object. It is a sock that I had knit most of, and then I had not done the toe because I had ordered some yarn from the UK, and with the COVID stuff, it got stuck in the system. So I got it this past week, and so I went ahead and did the toe. So this is the pattern I always knit for socks, which is pretty much the Rose City Rollers pattern. I just knit a leg and 2x2 rib at the top. And then the toe is I don't think the toe is in the Rose City roll. I don't remember where I got the toe from, but it's basically you decrease. One round you knit, then the next round you decrease 4 stitches. And the next round you knit, and the next round you decrease 4 stitches. 2 on each side. And so, I forget what they call it. Is that a square toe? I forget what they call that. Anyway, it's got a slip stitch heel flap, and then the garter and the heel turn and all that. So the yarn is Foxy by Ted Knits UK. I absolutely love his yarn. Whatever the base is, it's 75/25. There's something about the twist in his base that I just love the feeling of it, and it's not, I don't know how to say it. It's soft and but it's not fluffy. I don't know how to say that.
It doesn't have a halo on it.
No, it
very
doesn't.
much.
It's very,
it's very clean, for lack of a
clean.
better word.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. So anyway, I had seen this Foxy colorway on Instagram, fell in love with it and had to buy it, and then I was like, I want to do a different toe, and I kind of like, so there's a brand of socks that you can buy called gold toe socks, where no matter what the sock is, the toe in it is gold. And so I kind of like gold toe socks, and I like the gold toe. And so I was like, why not buy some gold and do it? Because it'll work with this yarn, but also because then I've got a skein of...
Just for toes and
just
heels.
for toes and stuff.
Right.
So if I don't plan ahead, or if it's not a sock set or whatever. So I knit. So I bought this is the Gold Dust colorway from Ted Knits UK, and that this is the yarn that I was waiting on, and I got it last week. So yeah, so I'm very happy with it. The length is perfect.
Have you tried it on yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the length is perfect, and the distance or whatever, the length of the heel. And so I'm going to actually measure this because there's been, so I kind of have zeroed in on what's the perfect sock recipe for me, but we were talking about it with Needles at the Ready, the guys on the Needles at the Ready podcast, because Kevin and I wear pretty much the same size shoe. I wear anywhere from 8.5 to 9. I think that's what he wears. And that's a men's US 8.5 to 9. And then I'm using 2.5 millimeter needles. I don't know what the US number is for that. And then I cast on 64 stitches.
2.5 is not the US. That's the...
So I said 2.5 millimeter needles. I don't know what the US size is.
Oh.
You're not listening to me.
I'm totally honest. Maybe we should stop knitting.
So what I do when I think there's different ways to measure, but what I do is measure from the beginning of the heel turn, so the bottom of the heel flap, that's where I measure from. And from there to here, which is where I begin the toe. So that's what I measure, because first of all I find that the easiest to measure, but also the iPhone measure app can pick this up well enough that I can drag the pointer on the iPhone measure app well enough to where I don't have to have a tape measure with me, and I can just use the app. So this is... This is 7 3/4 inches. I think I said something different in the past, but it's 7 3/4 inches from the bottom of the heel flap to where I begin the heel toe.
And that makes sense.
Begin the toe.
The toe, because your toe is about 1.5 inches, right? Or 1 3/4 inches?
I thought it was 2 inches. But
okay.
Yeah, it's almost exactly 2 inches.
Okay.
So, yeah. So the entire length of the foot is 9 3/4 inches.
Right. Which you're...
And then so from the heel turn, so what am I trying to say? The length of the leg. So from the beginning of the heel flap to the top of the sock, so from here, the heel flap up to the top of the ribbing, that's exactly 7 inches. And if I knit it any longer than that, I know some people probably like longer socks, but if I knit it any longer than that, then my calf gets in the way, and it
can't fit it on, right?
I can. It starts to stretch,
Mm-hmm.
and I would have to do some kind of increasing or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
and because I have such massive calves,
The soccer player calves,
rugby player calves. If it gets any longer than this, then it starts to get wonky.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, so I'm complete. So now I am, I had cast on the second sock, and then I put it on hold because I was waiting for that gold yarn to arrive, and so I've really only knit this much of the cuff on my 9-inch circulars, which is the only way to knit socks. Although I have to say it's really funny because I've been working on that worsted weight sweater with, I think it's like 7 or 9 millimeter needles, maybe not that big, 7 millimeter, no, US size 7 needles.
Right.
And going back to knitting this, it's like
little tiny fingers,
dental floss and toothpicks,
right.
But I still like it. I still love it, and still doesn't bother me. But well, one thing, and I've heard other people talk about this, is it's not, when I'm knitting socks with the 9-inch circulars and the fingering weight yarn, my hands don't get tired. But when I'm knitting the worsted weight sweater, my hands get tired.
Gotcha.
So, all right, what have you got for us?
So I have finished my sweater, the Marledish by Corrado Lark. So it was a test knit. It was technically due last Saturday, but it got done yesterday.
But there was an Oh no.
No. He gave me special. He said thank you, don't worry about it.
Right.
But the official, like on Yarn Pod, it was like May 2nd or whatever.
Whatever last, yeah.
So it was nice. It's done. Which is really nice. So now I know I can do a sleeve in about a week and a half. So yeah, I'm very happy with it. It is now blocking. So woven all the ends yesterday morning, and then took some pictures of it and then blocked it. So it's good. The one thing that we had a minor issue with.
That's John's interpretation of what happened.
That's
I'm going to refer to it as a full-blown meltdown.
Well, it was a bit of a meltdown. So
John said he was never going to knit a sweater again.
I know. So what?
Why even bother knitting sweaters?
Yes.
And why even bother knitting his gauge swatch? I mean, I could keep going.
Well, maybe some context would be helpful for people.
No, I'm just going to make you look bad for. Go ahead, sorry.
You know what? When you point one finger, you got 4 pointing back at you.
Nobody understood that because you mumbled it, so it's fine.
When you point one finger, you have 4 pointing back.
When you point your finger at somebody else, you got 3 pointing back at you. If you're gonna say it right. Now go ahead.
I guess the thumb doesn't really count unless you're doing like that. So anyway, so put the sweater in the wool wash, let it soak, then wrung it out with towels, and then put it on the blocking mats. And I had expected it to grow a little bit, but it grew a little bit more than I wanted it to. And so I was trying to figure out, so I'd actually measured it. So my plan was that I knew what it was before it was blocked. And so I knew that I needed the sleeves to be like 1 inch longer and the waist to be like another 1/2 inch longer. So my plan was to wash it, dry it out, and then block it to that length. And when I got to block it, it had grown past that length. So that was a little frustrating because
and I think what would be helpful is, I mean, so I know that there are YouTube videos out there that talk about this topic.
I guess to me, what I didn't realize is that I've always thought of blocking is you could is that you could sort of take your garment and sort of put it in the size you wanted it to. What I didn't realize is that you can't really make it smaller.
Right.
And so that was kind of frustrating because I'm trying to squinch it together and just like, you can't do that. And then I was like, I hate you. And then I was like, I hate knitting. And then I was like, why do I even do this? This is the most disappointing thing ever. I should just pick up basket making because things don't grow. I mean, they might. Who knows?
And I used to be a pretty codependent person, and I used to be like, "Oh God, John, it'll be okay." And then John taught me that that's not. Well, I mean, John's behavior is, "You're being stupid. Be quiet." And so I said to John, "You're being stupid. Be quiet."
Yeah.
And actually, I mean, I'm teasing. That's not what I said, but I think it's. What I did say is that I think everybody goes through this, and I think it's a learning process of knowing how your fiber is going to react. And I think that's hard to know.
Well, and the thing which is tough, which is interesting, is I think what I guess that my struggle is that you're knitting the sweater, or at least I'm knitting the sweater, and the horizontal gauge, I think, is going to be fine because I blocked that, right?
Right.
And that's the number of stitches on the pattern. I think that'll be fine. The problem is with the vertical gauge, the way that I'm doing the sleeves and the waist, I'm measuring on my body. So I'll put on a sleeve and I'll be like, okay, I've got this much more to go, right? And the problem is that is based on it not being blocked.
Right. So
then you block it, and then all of a sudden you have clown sleeves and a sweater dress. Right. Which we did. This is not to that. Like my last one was like that because I had a really loose. I mean, this is actually not too bad. It's probably the cuffs are a little maybe an inch and a half too long, and the waist is a little too long. Is like an inch and a half too long. So it's not huge, but it's one of those things that you spend all this time on a sweater, and
I do think that because of the fact that the yarn is superwash, I've heard, and I think it was Tracy and Jody on the Grocery Girls talked about this specifically in their most recent episode, which was their 100th, that superwash specifically grows more, and I'm assuming that's because with superwash, I've learned this from other podcasters and reading. I'm not confident in my knowledge, but I think with superwash they coat it in some way, and so the scales of the fiber don't grab onto one another as well. Thus, it doesn't grab onto itself, so it's easier for it to stretch.
Right. Yeah, and I think all of my yarn was superwash.
However, what that means is that same property of the fiber is what allows you to dry superwash in the dryer and not have it felt.
Right.
So I'm still of the mind that you can put it in the dryer if it's too long. Now, I know that you probably are burned a little bit because of the yarn that you knit the flax sweater in and you dried it and it got fuzzy.
Yeah.
Was that superwash? I don't think that was superwash.
I don't know. The flax sweater, I think the issue with the flax sweater was I was knitting on a really loose gauge. And so, I don't know. And this one's very tight, right? So
the gauge.
The gauge is really, so.
You mean it's smaller needles?
It means that, with the flax sweater, I had gone up several needle sizes to make gauge, so there's a lot of room in the stitches.
Oh, gotcha.
So I think that probably made it a little bigger too. So we'll see. I think we'll put it in the dryer and see what happens. But the thing is, which is tough, is I like the way it feels right now. So I don't want it to be all felty.
I don't think you'll run into that.
Yeah. Anyway.
You don't believe me.
Well, again, it's just one of those things, especially with, and I've had this with hats too, right? Where you have it knit and it looks great, and then you block it, and then it sort of gets really baggy, or you lose the cable definition, which is the other thing I don't like, right?
Right.
So.
And then, and the other thing that I didn't really think about is you probably could have steam blocked it, maybe?
Yeah, I thought about that.
But that doesn't really,
the thing is that...
It's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing. The difference between... And I can take a picture of it, and I don't know if it'll really show up, but when I blocked it, it looks beautiful. All of
The stitches
all the stitches even out. It looks gorgeous, and so like I don't want to lose that, but I want to, you know, I'll probably just, yeah, I'll probably do it with the same thing with the last sweater, just put it in the dryer for a little bit and see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, with the other one, it was literally, I mean, I think this one has to shrink less.
Right.
So the other one, like, the sleeves were, like, I mean, it was like a little kid wearing an adult sweater almost.
Right.
So this one just needs a little bit of shrinking.
You're talking about with the flax?
With the flax,
yeah. Yeah, and I think they probably do classes on this topic. I think there's probably resources out there, but I think also it's trial and error, and the problem is, as you said, the trial and error is a months-long process.
Right.
And it's an expensive process because you're spending this money on this yarn.
Yeah, and it's more of the time thing. And I guess to me, it is that whole, like, do you have to, so if you're doing, so I guess if you had a really good gauge swatch, right? And you knew what the, so you have the gauge for the pattern, right? And then you have your own swatch. You know exactly what the difference between the vertical gauge and the other gauges.
Horizontal?
No. So the vertical gauge in the pattern versus the vertical gauge in your sweater. Then you could be like, okay, so, you know, my vertical gauge.
But see, I don't think that equals out, because that's assuming you're also knitting it in the same fiber that the designer knitted in.
No, but it shouldn't. No, but what I'm saying is that then you would say, because they supposedly would have blocked it too, right?
See, I don't know that that's an assumption you can make, and that would be a good thing if people.
Well, no, but they're always, when you look at gauge, it's always like, you know, blocked gauge or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And so you could say that, like, okay, so you know that my gauge, my blocked gauge, so I got you meet horizontal gauge, right?
Right.
Because that's what you're really trying to do. And then looking at it, it's like, okay, my vertical gauge is going to be a little more than this. And so I know that, so let's say it's like,
I need to knit it smaller.
I need to knit the length a little smaller. So,
that's a good way to think of it.
yeah, I mean, it means doing more math and ratios, which I find sad.
But I think eventually...
But I think you also probably get... I mean, I think this is my second sweater, too. So.
Right. Well, yeah, and so, like, watching Tracy and Jody on the Grocery Girls, they both were doing these sweaters. They're doing this sweater called the Love Note sweater.
Mm-hmm.
And they've knit it a few times. I mean, I think...
Right.
Anyway, they've knit it a few times, and they're talking about, like, oh, the pattern doesn't have neck shaping in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put in some short rows in the neck, and it's like... I have no idea, like, what that even really means.
Well, and I think, like...
So, my point is, I think it's like with socks. I mean, it's like the thought of, back when I started, the thought of playing around with a pattern to get it to fit my sock measurements, it would have been like, what are you talking about? Right. But now, I think I could take any pattern, any sock pattern within reason, and... play around, like, you know, I've made up my own sock pattern based on taking a piece from this pattern and a piece from that pattern and making them work together. Now, I think a sweater is obviously harder because it's a lot more complex.
Well, and I think you just, when you know, like, the components better.
Right.
So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, the problem with being a project knitter, or a product knitter, is that,
you want to have an absolutely perfect...
the idea is to this perfect product, and like, and unique and exciting, and like, for the most part I get that, and so when I feel like I didn't get it, it's like, I always feel
You're
like...
a failure.
Well, no. I feel like more like, you know, when you've, you know, I feel like, you've raised this child... and you've put all this love and time and energy into it, and it's like Christina Crawford, and you're just like, God, Christina, why do you...
I'm not one of your fans!
Why can't you...
That's what your sweater is saying back to you. It's
right. I'm like,
one of your
I have done nothing but love you and give you everything, and you cost me so much money. Why aren't you perfect?
You know, it is so weird. I've heard you have this same conversation to poor Harris, our dog.
That's not true.
Why aren't you perfect?
Why are you perfect? So yeah, it's just one of those things. You're like, why? And so maybe what I should do. Here's a thought. So maybe it'd be a good idea to knit a couple of like baby sweaters. Which
If we got babies, we can give.
I've got babies, you can give them too, and maybe that's what I'll do. You know, just to get a little better sense of it, because, you know, just knowing. I mean, even the second one, I did so much better, right? Like in terms of just like understanding, like, I mean, because flax was a really well written pattern, and it was written,
and it's known as a beginner pattern.
Beginner sweater.
First sweater.
And this next pattern was a test knit. So what was kind of cool about that, I was able to sort of critically look at it and ask questions and stuff like that. By the way, Corrado Lark, thank you so much. He was such a delight to work with, because I would get stuck and then go on Instagram and be like, help, and within like minutes.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it's done. I am excited about it. It'll all get figured out right now. It'll all get figured out with the sizing and the blocking and the shaping.
Yeah, because the issue you're running into is not with the pattern. It's about understanding the fabric and maybe, because the thing is, if you want,
I just wonder if like maybe the next sweater I knit should be in
acrylic.
Well, I was thinking that, or just a regular wool.
Right.
Like a non-superwash wool.
Because if it's a non-superwash wool, I don't think it'll grow as much.
No.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm getting ready to show my sweater, and when I know with my sweater it's not going to grow.
Right.
Because it's acrylic. I mean, it's mostly acrylic.
Right.
There's some
it's
wool
like
in it,
almost the opposite of the problem, right?
Right.
Because with the blocking, I guess to me, with the blocking, it's like, okay, good, I've got a little bit of room.
Right.
I just ended up with more room than I thought I was going to have.
And there's an article I need to show you that I found, and it says what blocking can and cannot fix.
Gotcha.
So most of it is not common sense, but most of it is stuff you already know. So it's like knitting can smooth out the stitches. I'm sorry, blocking can smooth out the stitches. Blocking can, I forget what else it said. But then some of the other stuff it said was like blocking can't make a garment smaller.
Right.
Blocking can't. One thing I was surprised is it can't fix curling. Oh, lace was another thing, making it lace. You know, but it was something about curling stockinette. You knit stockinette and like it curls. Like I thought blocking would fix that. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
No. So that'd be interesting to know.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry, honey. I love you very much.
Why are you looking over there when you said that?
I'm sorry, honey. I'm sorry. I love you. No, and it's I think that one of the benefits of being married to someone for 10 years. No. 5 years.
5 years. Feels like 10 years.
Well, we've been together for 10 years. Yeah. Is we've gotten pretty good at de-escalating each other. So, and luckily, there are very few times when we're both up here.
Right.
So usually one of us is kind of able to have the emotional dexterity to make it all better. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and you were just, you weren't.
I was just
you weren't angry. I
was mad at the dirt. I was so mad at the dirt.
It's like you said, you were disappointed because you get so excited to finish this project and have this garment, and all this time has gone into it, and all this frustration and learning and talking about it and thinking about it, and it's like, oh well, I guess I'm not gonna be. And it's like I'm not gonna be able to. But I know that's not.
Well, and I
case.
think the other thing is that with that last, and I think it's the kind of to the point that you were saying before. So that first sweater vest I knit was alpaca, baby alpaca, and that one I blocked, and it was very tight. I knit it a size too small.
It really didn't grow.
It didn't grow at all, and so I have this like sort of once bitten, twice shy type thing.
PTSD.
About blocking and not having these garments you work on that you can't wear, which is...
And that's a really good point, is you've had 3 sweaters now The first one was baby alpaca. I mean, that was a sweater vest, but baby 3 garments. Baby alpaca. The second one we think might have...
Superwash, yeah.
It was superwash.
I think
and then the third one... Oh, yeah, because it grew so much.
Yeah.
And then the third one was...
I think it was all superwash. I think all 3 of them were superwash.
Superwash baby alpaca?
No, all 3 of the yarns I was using.
Okay.
So, anywho, blocking.
Well, let me talk about my sweater now.
Okay.
So, did you have anything else to say about that sweater?
No, I don't know when the pattern is coming out. I think it's another week or two. I think so. But look for it. I'm excited because I will have a garment. So I really wanted to be able to wear it, but it's still drying. And what I do know is the last thing you do is put on a wet sweater.
Yeah.
Because then you will get a sweater dress.
Right.
So,
that's a good point.
So, I've been really tempted. Like, it's been drying. I think this time last night was when I was blocking it for the first time. So it's still drying.
It's on blocking mats.
Yeah.
All right. So next is my work in progress, which is my sweater that I've been working on in my funny bag. So I have finished the body. What?
I just figured out what I did wrong.
Oh. The body is finished, and I think the body might have been finished last time I showed this. And I'm working my way down one of the sleeves. The body is done. I'm very happy with the length. And this, again, is not going to grow because it's mainly acrylic.
Right.
And I'm working my way down the sweater here. Down the sleeve. And this is not going to be the... way the neck stays, because you have to pick up these stitches and then knit the ribbing for the shirt. But one of the things that's interesting about this sweater is at the beginning of the rib section for the bottom, the cuffs of the sleeves, and I'm a lot further on these sleeves than I thought.
Yeah.
Down here, and then on the neck and on the sleeves, it's got this row of purl, row of knit, row of purl. That's kind of, I don't know if that's decorative or if that's to help
it lay a little flatter.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about, but I like it. It's different. So I'm really, really happy with how it's turning out. I love the color. It's going to be able to be thrown in the washer, thrown in the dryer.
Yeah, that's kind of, I'm a little jealous of that. Like, that's kind of the nice thing about an acrylic thing is that it's just, you can just wash it.
Yeah, and it's nice because it's 80-some% acrylic, but it's got wool in it.
Yeah.
And then, the size is working out really well. One thing that I wouldn't say I'm struggling with, but I'm learning about is the sleeves and knitting the sleeves. So I started off magic loop, and I wasn't happy with that because it was because I really disliked the needle that I was using. I have no idea what brand the needle was. I think it was probably one that you had bought a long time ago.
Yeah, we're just like when I thought I needed a long.
Yeah.
That would have been before we got our Chow set.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, it's not Chow that's for sure. Because my preference would be to knit everything on Chow. Except I love the Knit Picks wooden DPNs. But anyway, so what I've done now is I've put the sleeve on. I think it's like an 8-inch cable, and then we've got the Chow red lace or red twist tips, I think is what it is.
Right,
they're 3-inch.
Okay.
They're 3 inches. Is it 3 inches? 3.5-inch tips. So 7 plus 8, it's like the 16-inch. It's like a hat size needle.
Right.
And so that's fine for now. It's a little bit too big.
What size needle are you using again?
I think they're 7s.
Okay.
It's hard to see on these tiny little, or on this, yeah, it's 7s. So what is that, 4.5 millimeter? So several of you recommended the blue Chow set, which I think is shorter cables but larger tips, maybe.
Sure.
I didn't quite understand what the blue set was. I looked at it online, but not for too much. Betty and I actually offered to buy me those for my birthday.
Well, that's nice.
So we might be getting that to use. So I think that will allow me to use a shorter cable as the decreases go. A shorter cable so that it's not quite so stretched out.
Right.
Because I'm continuing to decrease. The decrease is 2 stitches every 6 rows, and then it's 2 stitches for like 4 repeats, and then 2 stitches every 7 rows for like 9 repeats, and then you knit any more that you need, and then so it's a very gradual taper.
Right.
So, and okay, here's a funny learning as well. I ain't got no holes in my armpit area. And it was funny because this first time I've picked up I've picked up stitches before, but I've never picked up stitches for a sleeve. And so it said pick up 12 stitches because I had cast on using the backward loop method, cast on 12 stitches to bridge that area. And then it said pick up those 12 stitches and then start your sleeve.
Right.
Well, because you had put the other stitches on waste yarn, and then you use the backward loop cast on method to add, like, I think it was 12 stitches. So I, not knowing any better and being used to picking up, the only other picking up of stitches that I've really done on a consistent basis is with the gusset part of a sock. And so I just picked up every stitch that I could, and I ended up picking up 24 stitches.
Right.
Because what I ended up doing was picking up all of the, what would you call that? The, like,
sort of in between
the edge stitches.
Yeah.
I forget, you called it something that made sense, but it's like the stitches that run down, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but there are stitches that run down along the sides of the sleeve, or along the sides of the armhole. I picked up all of those, 6 on each side.
And it's interesting because like a lot of patterns you have will have you pick up extra stitches on the side like that. I've seen some where you pick up stitches like that.
So I ended up picking up double the ones that I needed, and then the first knit round I just decreased every other stitch to get me back to 12.
Yeah.
And it fits great, and I ain't got no holes at all.
Yeah, that's good.
So
that's super cool.
Yeah, I mean there's this a little bit, but that's more about just pulling too tight.
Right.
And that I'm not going to worry about because nobody else.
Well, the nice thing about armpit holes is, because mine had, is that because you have yarn there.
Right. This.
It's really easy to just sew them back together.
Yeah.
Which I think people generally do.
Yeah. So that was a happy accident.
Yeah.
And so I'm really enjoying, now that I have it on a ChowGoo needle, it's
making life better.
Yeah, because at first I was like, because it hurt. You know, after a little while, because it's the bigger yarn, the bigger needles, the bigger motions, and my hands were getting tired, and wrists were getting tired, and especially with this janky needle that like had a lot of memory and stiffness in it.
And it was like looping back on itself all the time. Yeah.
So I was just like, oh, this is going to be awful. But now that it's on a ChowGoo needle and it's a circular, it's like knitting a sock, and so I'm sitting there and I'm not looking at it.
You're not paying attention. You don't have to think about it.
I don't have to pay attention to it. I don't have to even look at it.
Well,
so
it's
I'm like able to watch TV and stuff.
Well, because I did my sleeves in Magic Loop because that was the size cables we had.
Right.
And it was fine, but you just have to keep doing. You can't just sit and knit on it in the same way because you have to keep pulling the needles through and all that good stuff.
And you have to pay attention when you pick up or start the next row that you
pull the right
tension
or you pull the right needle out.
Oh God, yeah. The other thing is, so going back to the needles, I went on to, so there's a local yarn store. It's somewhat local. It's about a 45-minute drive away. It's called Darn Knit Anyway. Still in Stillwater, Minnesota, and I love that store. I love Harriet Nellis. I love Stephen B. I love Darn Knit Anyway. They're all wonderful in their own unique way. And so I went on Darn Knit Anyway's website, and they they have probably the largest selection, although Harriet and Alice has a lot, but they probably have the largest selection of ChowGoo cables and tips.
Oh, really? Okay.
That I've seen locally.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went on there and I bought additional cables, thinking that this was before I found this 8-inch cable that we already had. I bought an 8-inch cable, thinking that that was going to be super small. But I didn't think about the fact that you have to add the length of the tips in to the total length, and so that's how it ends up being 16 inches and not 8 inches. So I think that's where the blue set comes in, because the tips have different size screws on them. So it's either mini, small, or large. And the 7s are considered small screw type. And so I think the blue set must have like short cables like the minis, but small, instead of mini screw holes, small screw holes. And I know somebody else also pointed out that if that doesn't work, we can also probably get adapters from mini to small, so that we can put small tips on a mini cord.
Gotcha.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm super happy with how it's coming, and yeah, so I'm just plowing along on the sleeves, and then I'll be able to wash it, and yeah, leave in all the ends. I'll be super happy.
Cool.
All right, so I have one more new object, but it's for our knit along.
Okay. Sounds good.
So what do you want to do now?
I can do my 2 works in progress.
Okay. Are they either of them related to the knit along?
No.
Okay.
No. Neither one of them. So I'll just talk about this little baby that I'm working on right now, which I'm having to tink back on because, lordy. So this is a cowl pattern I'm working on. Pull it off.
In case you're wondering, John's Portuguese knitting it.
Right. So what is it? So the pattern is called Escama de Dragón. It's a free pattern from Manos de Uruguay. And it's basically a cowl. And the way it works is you kind of do I don't know if anyone see this, but it's a pattern with slip stitches. So it's a cowl with a series, basically it's in every other row you do slip stitches. I don't know if you can see it very well. So
we'll do close-ups like eventually once you finish it.
Yeah, once it's bigger. So that's fun. The yarn is called it's Herd of Cats is the dyer, and it is called Road Trip Sock Yarn, and the colorway is called Bishop Castle, which is in Colorado.
Which is in Colorado, yeah. Somebody pointed that out to us, and it's a real thing.
Which makes sense. Because
but wasn't it like with found stone and reclaim or like reused stone and stuff? I don't know.
I don't know. That up. I have no idea. I wonder if it's like one of the like the Watts Tower, where it's kind of an outsider art piece. I don't know. We should look that up. Someone tell us.
I looked at it, but then it flew right out of my head.
Well, it's been a while since I worked on this. So anyway, it is coming along. This is very pretty yarn. So yeah, I'm working on that. I just sort of picked this up this morning, and one of the things which is a little tough about it is that, so I'm knitting it backwards, right? So I'm knitting it Portuguese, and I'm knitting it basically from behind. So
you're knitting it on the wrong side.
I'm knitting on the wrong side.
In the round.
Right, exactly. So what happens is, basically it's a 4-stitch repeat, and like, depending on which row it are, you slip 2 stitches, knit pull the yarn front, slip again. So the problem is that it's, when you're not paying attention, like for example, when your husband is doing his side of the podcast and you're knitting and trying
You're just riveted.
I know, it's when I'm just like, oh my god, and the next word, what's he gonna say? It's kind of easy to get off without...
I'm sorry, I'm distracted because our dog is
sleeping, and
so hilarious when he gets himself comfortable. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
So it's really easy to get off, and then because I don't see it, so that what I'm looking at right now is the back, so you can't really see the slip stitches. And that's why I have these stitch markers, because pretty much I'll catch it.
So you can't read the knitting.
I can't read the knitting,
Because you're looking at the wrong side, and the slip stitches don't show up on the wrong side.
Exactly. So, anyway, I got off. I mean, you just tink back, and it's not bad. And it's also, I mean, I think it's a pretty forgiving pattern, but you still want it to be right. Mm-hmm. So, anyway, so that's coming along. I've done a couple of rows on it today. So, hooray.
Yeah, so for those people that aren't familiar with Portuguese knitting...
Oh, yeah. So what you do is the way it works is you take the yarn, you put it on like a hook. It's so hard to do like that. And the tension is held like that. So you hold the yarn right here, and that's what keeps the tension. And basically, it's one of those things where purling is really, really easy. So the purling motion is just sort of flicking the yarn over the needle, and so it's really easy to purl stuff with it. And so I do this for, I'll often do this for like anything that's like stockinette and stuff like that, long stockinette.
You mean garter?
No, stockinette.
Oh, you just purl it all.
When it's in the round, right?
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So, and then also when I'm doing color work, just because I know how to do color work. So when you're doing color work,
oh right,
you have 2 pins, and I just like the way it works with color work. So when I do color work, I have like two
stranded color work.
Stranded color work, yeah. So so I do that a lot.
Stranded, is that what it's called?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
okay.
Stranded color work. So I find with the it just holds the tension really, really nicely, because the tension is not really in your hands.
Right.
So.
And it people have said that it's good for people who are having tendonitis. Or...
Well, and I started doing it because I had tendonitis.
Yeah.
So I think 3 or 4 years ago, I think a combination of a bad mouse plus knitting or whatever, I had really bad tendonitis in my right hand, and so it was painful to knit. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to, when I started in Portuguese knitting, you could it because of a different motion, I was able to do it. So I pretty much use the regular throwing for most of my stuff, but every now and then I like to pick up a Portuguese knitting project. So,
speaking of styles of knitting, last time we had talked about the movie
The Mirror Cracked.
Mirror Cracked, and in that movie, Angela Lansbury is knitting, and let me tell you, there's some strong opinions about the fact that the way that Angela Lansbury was knitting in that movie is the correct way to knit.
Yes, that's what some people said. And they said it's
well, what's interesting to me is that so many people said yes, that's how a lot of people knit in the UK and in Ireland.
It's like
that's how their grandmothers knit, and that's how they knit, and I had never seen that style of knitting before. Now, granted, a lot of the podcasts that we watch about knitting, people are not sitting and knitting.
No, but I think, but yeah, it's a different way of knitting, and it just looked weird.
Yeah, but weird because we had never seen it before. But I'm excited to actually try it, because we actually we're going to talk about National Velvet, which was the movie we watched this week, and there was the mother in that movie was knitting, and she knit the same way.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to learn. I just kind of want to see...
Because I think they were talking, it's called kind of generally lever knitting.
Okay.
And so, I mean, the idea is that you have your right needle is very still. And so, do you remember when you've seen the people with the double pointed needles and the belts?
Well, yeah, I brought that up last time.
Yeah, and so that is a type of, so what she
maybe descended from that.
Or it's a version of it, right? So it's the idea is that your right needle is just very, very still, and you're moving the yarn around the right needle, I think.
Yeah, cool. So
anywho.
And then the other kind of knitting that we've encountered, that it was when we were on our honeymoon in South America, and there were women like in these craft markets and things, and it was similar to Portuguese knitting, I think. And they had the yarn around their neck, which I know you can do with Portuguese knitting instead of using a pin.
Yep.
but they just were, they did it so quickly. It was like their hands were a blur.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway. Yeah.
So my other work in progress, let's put this little puppy away for a little bit. Well, I'm going to keep knitting on it.
Yeah.
Is this Tailwind Shawl. And so I've gotten a little bit further on it. So I think last time we spoke, I was up to here, and I just started doing the next section right here.
So you're doing from this color to the dark, and then now you're back doing the dark and you're going to go to the light. Or
exactly.
To the,
exactly.
the lightest.
So yeah. Super fun pattern. Josh Ryks-Robinsky, Geoknit Tricks, and the yarn, oh lordy, is Rustic Wandering, by Die Monkey Yarns, and then the mini set is something Harry Potter something.
Oh, it was like the Ravenclaw.
It was the Ravenclaw, Whip Beyond Measure.
Yeah.
And it was by a dyer who no longer dies.
That's right. Sold at a store that no longer exists.
So, yeah. So I picked this up yesterday too, and this is a really.
Because now that your sweater's done,
right? I can think about other things. Oh, this is showing the wrong side. Sorry. This is the right side. So yeah, and this will be. I mean, I think the nice thing about this one is this one's a really. Like I can do one of these sections in a day without really spending a lot of time on it. So this one will get, I think, done pretty quickly. So I'm very excited about this. Again, just in time for summer. Yay! So yeah, those are my two works in progress. I have other notions. Yeah, a few more languishing ones. There's that color work cardigan I've been working on.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, I know. I was working on it like in Italy. It's the one with the really intricate colorwork pattern. Anyway, we won't worry about it.
Oh, the one from Rowan.
Yeah, the one from Rowan.
From the Rowan
yeah.
magazine.
Yeah. Which is just beautiful, but Lord, it takes a lot of paying attention to.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's, my goal is to get that one done by the end of the summer.
Awesome.
Maybe. If I don't pick up another sweater for our knit-along, which is a possibility.
Let's talk about our knit-along.
Let's do.
All right. So thanks to Trilogy Yarns.
Yes.
And Nancy, we have beautiful prizes. She's in Spokane, Washington. TrilogyYarn.com is her website. Mm-hmm. And so we made some decisions.
Right. What we needed to have and what we wanted to pay forward.
Right. Because she was very generous, and we wanted to keep some yarn. First of all, she donated a skein to my mom, to Betty Ann. But also, we chose a skein each so that we could knit projects in it coming up soon, so that we could continue to show off the yarn.
Yep.
As we do projects with it. So we're gonna we have two skeins to give away. One is going to be a prize from the finished objects thread on Ravelry, and all that's set up now. I finally got that done. And then the other is going to be
the Instagram,
pulled from the Instagram posts where there's somebody where you use the hashtag SweetTeaNoShade. I got it right this time. SweetTeaNoShade.
Okay.
And what was my point? Oh, and I've seen a couple posts with the Sweet Tea 2020 cal already.
That's pretty awesome.
So we've got two skeins of sock yarn, both in her glamorous base, which is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 400 yards out of 100 grams. This one, the colorway is Conquest, and I'm not going to take it out of the band because she I can't. I'm not going to be able to
put it
twist
back
it up
as
well as she's got it. Yeah. So this is it's reds and whites and navy blues and dark purple. It's like the blue and the red mixed together to make kind of a purple. It's beautiful. It feels wonderful. It's got that, it's
got a kind of like, it's fingering weight yarn, but it feels very robust.
Yeah.
And
I think, and it's very soft, and I think so with it being 80% merino and 20% nylon versus 75% merino, 25% nylon, I think it makes it a little softer.
Right.
The next one is Titan, which is her high school
colors
mascot, or her high school colors, which we
did not. We had a different.
We talked about the
Attack on
Titan, which was a anime thing we watched. But anyway, this one is kind of a maroon wine color, and then a brownish beige, and then there's, I think that's green speckles in it, green or blue, greenish blue. It's kind of hard to tell as it kind of mixes in with the other colors, but we are super excited for other people to try out this yarn. And then, yeah, so the knit along is, we're focusing on Intarsia and Entrelac.
Yes.
You can do that in knitting or crochet, we found out. And just a pointer, if you're trying to find a pattern, if you go on Ravelry, you can actually look for projects that are specifically Entrelac or Intarsia.
Yeah, and Intarsia is in the colorwork section, and Entrelac is in the construction section, I think.
Yes, I think you are right.
So, yeah, there are quite a few.
Yeah, quite a few. So I went and sat down a couple days ago, or yesterday actually, to figure out what I was going to knit as part of the knit along. And we decided that John's going to do Intarsia and I'm going to do Entrelac.
Right.
Although if I finish my Entrelac project, I might also do an Intarsia project.
Right.
Because I'm doing a hat. I chose to do an Entrelac hat because John had pointed out that he'd seen a lot of people do that, or do hats with Entrelac, and I saw a lot of patterns and it looks really cool. The other thing is that, or I looked at a sock pattern, but it's part of a, that sock pattern I was showing you. I was a little nervous about trying to do a sock just because I'm not familiar with the construction. I'm not familiar. I don't know what Entrelac is at all. Now I've got an idea. But at the time, I had no idea what Entrelac even was. And so I was worried about trying to do something that had to fit a part of my body.
Right.
With a new construction method. And so...
Well, and hats are just a lot more forgiving.
Yeah. And so I chose an Entrelac hat. Oh, and the sock pattern I was looking at was part of a year-long club of some kind, and you can't buy the pattern independently.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, well that rules that out. So the hat I'm doing is from Woolly Wits, and the designer's name is Theresa Schabes. I think that's how you pronounce it. And I think she might be in the Midwest, because she talks about how she's taught.
Did she talk about like soda and... Did she
You mean
talk Pop and Duck Duck Grey Duck?
No. But she has taught at Minnesota Knitters Guild Yarn Over, the Madison Knitters Guild Knit In, and Yarn Con in Chicago, and Stitches Midwest.
Okay.
So I bet she's somewhere in the upper Midwest. But I'm not going to show the hat, the finished object, because I want to reveal it kind of as I knit it.
Yep.
So, I mean, you guys can find it online if you want, and other people. I mean, it's a very popular pattern, so other people might have already done it. But it's a pretty... I mean, it's a very well-written pattern, and it does a really good job of explaining everything, and has pictures and all of that. So, so that's what I've chosen to do. And so the yarn I've chosen was a yarn that I had in my stash, and I have no idea what it is. This is what it looks like caked up. And one of the things that I watched the Entrelac tutorial for Stacy from Very Pink Knits, and she talked about the fact that when you're knitting Entrelac, one of the things that really works well is to pick a yarn that is what they call, it's variegated yarn, that's what they called long something dyed, long strand dyed, or something like that, where the amount of the color on the yarn goes for several feet instead of a few inches before it changes color.
Right.
And so I don't know that this necessarily does that. I think it changes more frequently than that, but I'm okay with that because it's the way the construction method works. You end up with color blocks
because isn't it Entrelac? You're like knitting one little like a triangle, and then you move the next triangle. So you're knitting these different sort of discrete blocks that sort of get all fit together. So if you have like,
and then on the next round of shapes, you pick up stitches along the edge of the previous shape and things like that. So I might end up with triangles or squares that are part of the pattern that are not all one solid color, which is kind of what I think people want when they knit something Entrelac. My squares and triangles and stuff might have more than one color in them, but they're going to be different than what's next to it.
Right, they'll be very distinct, and that'll be fun.
And this yarn has just about every color you can imagine in it. So, so I'm excited with that. The hat has it is a paid for pattern, and I don't think I said that. It's called All Squared Up 2.0 is the name of the pattern. And so the pattern recommends Mrs. Crosby carpet bag in Bahama Wood Star Madeline Tosh DK. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Sorry. Mrs. Crosby carpet bag in Bahama Wood Star. And then Madeline Tosh DK in Heartbeat. And I think those are two different, two different hats. She's got two hats.
Because one's got a DK pattern and a worsted pattern?
No, I think they're both DK. Yeah, they're both DK. Okay. But, because the way I found this pattern was I knew that this yarn was probably DK, even though I couldn't find the pattern based on the wraps per inch. I did the wrap per inch test.
Right, and this is the one that we don't know what it is.
Well, yeah, I can't find the ball band. It was in our stash without the ball band on it. So, what was I saying? So, so I'm excited about it. I'm excited to do the technique because it's different. I mean, it's nothing I've ever done before, and so all I've done so far is cast on, and similar to other hats that I've done recently. I think whenever possible from now on, I'm going to do the double brim, where you knit twice the length you need, fold it in on itself, join the stitches together, and then start the hat. And actually, coincidentally, this hat calls for that kind of brim. And so you do a provisional cast on, which is what the pink is, and then I'm doing a 2x2 rib for, I'm going to do 6 inches, which will make a 3-inch double brim. And then you start the hat. And the bag that I have my hat pattern in is a gift that John gave me. It's a bag from the Rusted Stitch, Stephanie Lewis. She, therustedstitch.etsy.com. She takes sweaters and...
She also did this one.
Oh, she also did that one, yeah. And she upcycles them into these beautiful knitting bags. And she's got cuffs. It's like, I did like this because you can wear them as bracelets, but they're shawl cuffs. She just has amazing stuff. And she actually donated stuff to us for...
one of our knit-alongs.
One of our knit-alongs and stuff. So, more than one of our knit-alongs. I think 2 of our knit-alongs.
Did we do a bag for one?
We did a bag for one and then cuffs for
the other
another. But yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to share that. So I have cast that on, and it is underway. So the knit-along will be... We started May 1st, and we decided to go till the end of July.
Yes.
And I don't know if I put that correctly on Ravelry. I think I might have said the end of June. No, I said the end of July. I said the end of July. Okay. So yeah, so we got 3 months.
Yep. And I'm still looking. I have an idea of something I want to do, but I think it would involve... I have this like set of mini skeins that I got from Leading Them Fiber Arts that I really, really like. I was thinking of doing some sort of diamond pattern cowl. I haven't found a pattern for that, and I might have to make up my own pattern, which seems exciting, yet also really terrifying. So,
especially if you've never done Entrelac.
Well,
I mean, Intarsia.
Intarsia. I mean, the thing about Intarsia is, like, because you can do it's blocks of colors, you can just do a lot of, I mean, most people make up their own patterns, I think. It's like, it's more about you find the chart. So we'll see. And then I also found this really fantastic sweater. That is Intarsia. So we'll see about that. I also found this really amazing Intarsia blanket, but what I think I'll do with that one is I'll think about that one.
Yeah.
Because there's no way I'd get it done in 3 months. It's basically, you take like 8 skeins of Aran weight yarn and knit a blanket out of it.
Right.
It looks beautiful. It's like mountains. We can toss that if we want to, or not. But we'll see. But yeah, Intarsia is just really, I think, there's a lot of freedom in it because you're not really...
It's not like stranded color work where...
Right.
Yeah.
You can do... Your only limitation is how many bobbins you want to deal with.
Right.
So.
Cool.
That is our knitting. Because you have all the different... So for each patch of color, you need a separate ball of yarn.
Oh, okay.
So what you do is you wind your yarn into little small balls or bobbins. And so if you've got this really complicated thing, you've got like all these bobbins of yarn like waving around.
Okay.
So.
All right. Well, so that's our knit along.
Mm-hmm.
And I have one more thing to show knitting related, and that is one more skein of yarn that I acquired. So I didn't know when my yarn from the UK was going to arrive because of the whole COVID stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, it arrived last week. So in the interim, I went on to 2 different local yarn stores and bought gold yarn. So I'm going to be getting
Lots of gold yarn.
lots of gold yarn in the mail because I lost my mind. But when I had because I can't buy just like 1 skein of yarn,
right,
and have it mailed to me. You have to buy at least 2.
Mm-hmm.
When I bought the gold
Otherwise,
yarn,
it's bad luck.
Right, it's bad luck, and it's you're losing money somehow.
You
I don't
are,
know how, but
yeah,
you are. So I bought the gold yarn, the gold dust colorway from Ted Knits, and so then I also bought this one, which is Mardi Gras, and this is his. I don't know if he names his bases, but it's 75-25, 425 meters for 100 grams. Again, same base. That's just, I love the base, and so it's called Mardi Gras, and I'm going to open it up. And it's just so,
That's really nice.
It's so fun. I love when people are able to achieve these crazy, intense colors. And so, yeah, I'm excited to have some crazy...
Are you going to make socks with that?
Yeah, some crazy socks with this.
Cool.
So, yeah. So that was my other acquisition that came last week from Ted Knits UK.
Awesome.
All right, so I think now, just for fun, we were going to show off the gifts that we got for one another for our 5th wedding anniversary, because we had that on May the 2nd. And so I think...
This is non-knitting content. So.
Non-knitting from the rest of the episode, it is probably going to be is mostly non-knitting content. Do you want to show off what you got me, and I'll show off what I got you?
Sure.
Okay. We've been trying to stick to the...
So we've been married for 5 years.
Yes.
Let's start with that one. And one of the things we've been trying to do for the last, we have...
Since the beginning,
is trying to stick with the traditional or modern versions of what you give each other for each anniversary. So, for example, for our paper anniversary, Scott got me a book. I got him some cufflinks that had paper.
The lyrics from our wedding songs on paper inside the glass cufflinks.
Right. So that was pretty awesome.
And for some reason, I don't know why, because we're not competitive people.
No, not at all.
Every year it turns into a competition.
Where we both win.
To see who can get the better gift. Which is just for fun.
And I've won by default a couple of years.
I've never gotten John a 3rd year or 4th year wedding anniversary gift, because the 3rd year, the Etsy person like wasn't able to do it. They shut down or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 4th year, his gift was so good that I'm still like, I can't think of anything good. So
yeah. So the 4th year, well, it gets challenging because it's fun because, like, you know, so the first year's paper, the 2nd year is ceramics, porcelain. But I didn't get you porcelain.
No, you got me the other, whatever the other one is. What did you get me? Oh, it was fab. No, it was because you got me the mountains.
Oh, it was fabric or cloth.
Silk.
So the 3rd one is something in leather, which is kind of fun. I got him some leather suspenders. He got me nothing.
Yep, that's right.
And then the 4th anniversary is like flowers and linen or something like that. And so I got him a linen jacket with a floral lining. So
it's like it's a jacket.
It's a light summer jacket, and the best thing about it is, so I ordered it from off Amazon, I think, and you just never, it's like blocking a sweater. You're just never sure because they, you know, the sizes are from different countries, and so you order a medium, and sometimes that's actually a child's small in the United States. But yeah, that one fit really well. Yeah. So anyway, this year is wood. And so what I got, Mr. Asbill Salisbury, is I actually ordered it from the same place I ordered those cufflinks for. So if you're ever looking for anniversary gifts, this place it's called paperanniversary.com. It is, I think, a sort of craft cooperative, like 6 women in San Francisco.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And the main woman is Anna V is her last name. And so paper-anniversary.com. And so what I got Scott was this kind of map of the world. And what it has is little pins on it where you can customize, and they commemorate like special places for us. So I don't know if you can see this or not, but like, so we have like first kiss, proposal, wedding, and then we have our honeymoon down here
in South America,
and then I did a pin because travel to us is really, really important.
Yeah.
So our first trip together was to Greece. Our last trip together was to Italy. And then there's another pin that says next trip. So we can sort of plan for our next trip.
Which I want to be Scandinavia.
Right. So.
But we'll see.
We'll see. We'll see. You know, the state of travel right now is
pretty grim.
Just, you know, interesting.
Yeah.
So anyway, I really like this. It's just really pretty.
And the thing that's cool is we've been to other places, like we've been to Hawaii. Like we could put smaller pins if we wanted.
Yeah.
Like it's a really, I just love it because and then it says Scott and John Asbill Salisbury adventuring together since May 2nd, 2015.
Yeah. So that was great. Again, if you ever, it's Paper Anniversary gifts, I think, and they're just fantastic. They're a good place to go if you're not sure what to buy, because they have a lot of good ideas. So that was the gift to him. We'll put it on the wall, and yeah.
I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah.
And especially because you're not the most romantic person sometimes.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Because you don't care about that stuff. He's wonderful. He's just sometimes mushiness is not something he cares about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So, because he's cold and dead on the inside.
The wasp runs hard in me.
Yeah. So then I got John this from, it's an Etsy store, Fox Bairn, Bairn, which I don't actually know what that means, but it's literally a slice of a tree, and it's got bark on it, and it smells like wood. And it is a family tree. So the center says the Asbill Salisbury family tree, established 2015. And so on this side, it's John. The next ring are his parents, and then his grandparents, and then his great-grandparents, and then my name, my parents, my grandparents, and my great-grandparents. So luckily, we had sat down and done Ancestry in the past, so I was able to log on to Ancestry and get this information without having to ask him.
Right.
And then also, the funny thing was, though, I had to email his sister because I couldn't remember his mom's middle name. And so I was like, well, I want to put her middle name on there. So I emailed his sister. I was like, what's your mom's middle name? And she's like, she doesn't have one.
Right.
I was like, oh, that's why.
That's why it's not
I don't
anywhere
know
on
what
the,
it is.
it's nowhere on the internet.
Yeah. So
yeah, this was really awesome. I was really, really delighted to get this.
it's just so unique,
Yeah.
you know, and so the craftsmanship is just outstanding, and it was like days, a matter of a few days, and I had it. And she sent me a template to proofread, and then it was like a matter of a few days, and it was here.
So yeah, that's super fun.
Yeah.
So, anniversary gifts. Hooray.
Hooray. Now what you've all been waiting for. The Angela Lansbury
Right.
segment.
I mean, notice we put this at the end because we know that's what
Everybody's just dying to get to this part.
Bum, 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 ba-dum.
Did you want to keep going with that?
Ba-da-dum, bum, 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 bum,
Okay,
bum,
I take it
bum,
back, I take it back.
bum.
So, your assignment for last week was to watch National Velvet. If you did not watch National Velvet, you can still enjoy the conversation.
Yes.
So, we watched The Mirror Cracked and talked about that last week.
Which starred Angela Lansbury and Elizabeth Taylor.
Right.
And we sort of segued because that was in 1980 when that was made. And then you know what? They're also in another movie together, which is National Velvet from
Go ahead, sorry.
Which is from 1944.
Which happened to be Elizabeth Taylor's first movie.
No, it was her first big movie.
Oh,
I think she'd been in other stuff.
Okay.
But
she was 12. Elizabeth Taylor was 12. Angela Lansbury was 19. But playing
younger.
Which
I think that might be a first.
Because what is it? So what is it? We always check for what billing she is. And then we check to see if
how ridiculous the age difference is,
especially compared to other actors in the movie. So she didn't get top billing.
No.
But then again, she was a pretty minor character, and neither did Elizabeth Taylor get top billing.
Right.
Mickey Rooney got top
Which is
billing.
funny because I always think of National Velvet as a Elizabeth Taylor movie. I mean, I think it's kind of the movie that made her a star, and then Mickey Rooney's in it.
Yeah.
And
he was 24 when the movie was made. So what age would you say he's playing?
I think he's
early
playing
20s.
Yeah, I think he's playing someone is early 20s. I think he's playing someone the same age. Although Mickey Rooney being a small person, like he's a little.
Yeah, he's 5'2".
Yeah.
And I thought I was short, but everybody knows Mickey Rooney is short, and he plays a former jockey,
right?
Jockey,
So it makes
a lot of sense, yeah. So, okay, so let's just talk about this movie. So first of all,
Elizabeth
Taylor is one of the children of the corn in this movie.
She's a very intense little girl.
Oh, Father, oh Pie. I love you so much.
Yeah.
I'm in love with you, Pie.
Is the horse.
Yes, Pie is the horse.
So she's
in love with him.
She loves horses. She loves this one horse, and it's single-minded devotion.
Oh, Father. And come to find out, the horse in the movie, Elizabeth Taylor kept the horse.
Yeah. Of course she did.
After the movie.
Yeah. So yeah, she's it's funny because it's a good movie.
That's what I keep finding over and over again, because I'm not one to seek out. I mean, I seek out movies that are old, but they're like the number one movie, like Gone with the Wind or Sound of Music. Not something that like Samson and Delilah we watched, or The Mirror Cracked from the 1980, or the National Velvet. Like, I thought National Velvet was like some 70s movie about like a stripper or something. Her name is Velvet Brown.
I know.
That sounds like a
Well, it sounds like a Pam Grier film, to be honest, right?
Pam Grier, yeah.
Right, from the 70s.
Yeah.
Velvet Brown.
Velvet Brown. So I'm just like, yeah, what is this about? So, yeah, so it was actually, the first half, it felt very surfacey. Like, it was like establishing that she was in love with this horse. And that they were establishing the family dynamics, and they were establishing Mickey Rooney.
Yeah.
But then
whose name was Mai.
And the horse's name was Pie. I didn't understand why they did that.
And I don't know if Mai was particularly an Irish name. It was M.I.
Oh. We haven't talked about the fact that they just didn't give a hoot.
No.
That like half the cast had a British accent and half the cast didn't.
They were like, you know what, we're just not going to worry about it.
Right.
They're all from the same village.
Because Angela
Lansbury has a different accent. Elizabeth Taylor has this kind of like soft American accent.
It's a Children of the Corn accent.
Right. It is. It's
father.
Oh, father.
Angela Lansbury. I mean, not Angela Lansbury. The mom.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody in I was reading about it online. Somebody said something about her having a pronounced New York accent. I didn't read it that way.
I didn't.
It just sounded like an American accent to me.
Right. Kind of the Mid-Atlantic pronunciation.
Right.
That sort of
not RP.
Received.
It's not British RP.
Yeah, but there's that sort of like Catherine, that sort of Cary Grant, although he's British, but that sort of a proper American speaking.
Yeah.
Which it was filmed in America, so
oh, it was? I thought you said it was filmed in.
No. I mean, it was an American film.
It was an MGM film.
Right.
Yeah. So, one of the things that I read that was really funny is that Elizabeth Taylor wanted to be in this movie really badly. Mm-hmm. And so they kept saying, you're too... Because the character of Velvet was supposed to be, like, in her late teens. Mm-hmm. And so they said that she wasn't womanly enough. Mm-hmm. And she didn't have the curves and all of that. So she like... for weeks or months or whatever, she ate steak dinners every night and did all this stuff to try to make herself more
curvaceous
and curvy. And the rumor is, or whatever, that they gave her the part based on sheer will. The fact that she tried that hard to make it into the film. So
it's like funny. It's like the other thing you read is like she broke her back during filming.
Oh yeah, she fell off the horse and broke her back.
Right, and it she dealt with sort of the pain for that all her life. So it's like this film that launched her, like it both gave her famous like weight disorder.
Oh yeah.
Where like she was always like, going up a size, down a size all the time and struggled with that, and also the pain stuff.
Yeah.
So sad.
So sad. But it was a good movie, and
she was really good. I mean, I think
for a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah.
I mean...
Well, and here's the other thing. I always think about, like, looking at, like, she doesn't... Yes, she's 12, but she's one of those people who never had, like, an awkward phase.
Yeah.
Like, she looks like she came out of, she was born looking with this angel face.
Yeah.
So, she's really good. The mother was really, really good.
The mother was my favorite character, but the relationship between the mother and the father, I just loved that.
Yeah.
I just loved the way that they interacted with one another.
Well, and it's just one of those things like that. I haven't read the book, but like, in the movie, the mother is this woman who, when she was in her 20s, like swam the British Channel. English Channel, yeah. And did this really crazy...
Was told that a woman couldn't do it.
And she did it. And so it made sense as to why you would let your daughter do this.
Right. Yeah, that's true, because
she's like, everyone needs, like, a folly, is what she called it. And I thought that was, like, she, saying, I have a horse, I'm going to enter it into this national race. Okay, go do that, because everyone needs to do something like that. Something...
crazy in their
I don't think she would have been like, I don't think the mother would have been like, oh, you should ride in the race, because...
No.
Like, that was... So they do this race, right? And it's a steeplechase. They're jumping over hedges, and...
It's a real race.
It's a real race.
In England.
Yeah. And so they film it, and it is like one of the most terrifying things I've seen in my life.
Okay. That was one of the things that impressed me, was like... It was actually really riveting.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the scenes were real horses.
Real horses, and like, I mean, and I don't know, they probably didn't have the same ASPCA type stuff, but like, you would watch these horses jump these hedges, and like they'd fall off. The riders would get thrown. You're like, oh my god.
Yeah, it looked very terrifying. I'm surprised that they. I mean, I guess they still have boxing and stuff like that. It's just I'm surprised that they have such a dangerous race like that.
Right.
But who knows? I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so. I mean, I've seen steeplechase before because they still have it in the Olympics, right?
But is steeplechase where are they racing, or is it just what's it called when they're just going around and jumping?
Isn't that dressage?
Is that dressage?
I don't know. Because steeplechase is the one where they jump and there's like water and there's it's jumping and racing, I think.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong. This is my memory.
I don't think people are going to know where to start correcting us because it's like everything we've said is wrong.
I mean, this is based on my memory from the 1988 Olympics, right?
Right.
Or 84. So yeah. But yeah, good movie.
But back to the mom.
The mom was...
She just knew the perfect thing to say, especially when her husband was getting all out of sorts.
Right.
She knew the perfect thing to say to be like, okay, check yourself.
Right, don't wreck yourself.
Don't wreck yourself. Like, don't be a hypocrite, basically.
Well, it was a very, and I'd be interested to see, like, I'm assuming it's from the book, right? Like, because it's a book, right?
The interaction between parents, yeah.
Yeah.
And so she was knitting. I couldn't tell what she was knitting, but there was a scene where she was knitting where the horse had gotten sick, and so everybody was staying up late, and Velvet and Mai were out in the barn, out in the stables, trying to take care of the horse, and they were all inside, and she was knitting with DPNs, and she was knitting in that style, and I think
the Lever English cottage
and I
style.
think somebody referenced it's like you're holding the needle more as a pencil than a fork.
Yep.
And so I noticed that she was doing that, and I was gonna try to, but it was dark, and you couldn't really tell what she was knitting. But then there's the little boy who had the insect jar, the bug jar, the whole time.
Yeah.
That kid was weird.
That child was not right. And then you had Angela Lansbury, who was Edwina Brown.
Yes, Edwina.
And
who was boy crazy.
He was boy crazy, and in the movie for maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So
so the best scene was when, in my opinion, was when she, well, first of all, the beginning of the movie when her sister tells on her because she's got, was it fingernail polish or makeup or something? She had something on, and she's like, "Why are you wearing that?" And she's like, "Oh, she's gonna go see a boy."
Right.
But the scene where, I lost my train of thought. The scene where she, so Velvet gets called home from school. And she gets home, and Edwina's in the living room, like sobbing, and it's because the boy that she likes has to go off to war, wasn't it? Because it was set during World War I.
No, it was set in the 20s. I don't know why it go away. Because it was set in the 20s.
That's World War I, isn't it?
That's after World War I.
Oh, that's right, because that would have been in the teens.
Yeah. Maybe they stole the draft. I don't know.
I don't know, but he
had to go away do something. Right?
Yeah, he had to go away, and so, what was it that he had to go away for? I was thinking it was the war, but anyway, he had to go off, and she's sobbing, and Velvet, the 12-year-old's like, "You called me home for this?" And actually, it was the fact that the horse was sick that she got called. And then Angela Lansbury's like, "I hope your horse dies." It's like, oh my god. So it was still fun to see Angela Lansbury.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons we're doing this, I think you said it perfectly. It's like a really fun way to just look at a lot of movies you wouldn't normally see.
Yeah, because yes, we like Angela Lansbury. I mean, as much as we like anybody else, but it's this woman that's had this very
varied career,
meandering career, and so it's a fun way to navigate through different movies.
I mean, basically, what?
That was a dog snore, if you heard that.
Basically what? 1944, basically. Because I forget when Gaslight was. It was like 44, 45. To now, that's like, you do the math, like 65 years of cinema.
Right.
Right?
Well, so when was this movie?
44.
Yeah, so Gaslight was must have been, Gaslight was made at the same time as National Velvet.
I think so. I think they got released at different times, but they're...
Yeah, it's just interesting because one was in black and white and one was in color. I mean, I know that they were simultaneously happening that way, but it was just... I never thought of them being around this... probably because they were set in very different time periods. I think that's part of what's throwing me off.
Right, and she's playing a very... I think... In Gaslight, she's playing a little older than herself. Like, she's 19. She's playing maybe a 19-year-old. But playing very, very different characters.
Very different characters, yeah.
So.
All right, so.
We should...
Her first, 10 movies, her first 5 movies are Gaslight, National Velvet, The Picture of Dorian Gray, and The Harvey Girls, and then The Hoodlum Saint. We've seen 3 out of those 5.
Yep.
So we should probably watch The Picture of Dorian Gray next.
I agree.
Because a lot of people have talked about that.
Yeah.
And that's such a disturbing story.
It is.
Who is it that wrote that?
Oscar Wilde.
Oscar Wilde, that's right. Picture of Dorian Gray for next week. And
Yep.
Maybe I'll have a sleeve done. And I'll hopefully have at least the brim done on my hat.
Right. And I will be able to show off the sweater.
Oh, yeah.
That'll
be dry.
blocked and dried out and stuff. So.
All right, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.
All right, bye.